Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel, SpyPlane662 Gaming. Relatively new to YouTube and also to the division. Bought the game about 4 months ago, back in 1.5. I'm not typically a shooter game player, but when I bought this game I absolutely love it. One of the things I enjoy about it is the PvE content. I don't play too much PvP, but when I get into the Dark Zone to do the weeklies and dailies, every once in a while I run into occasional players out there. I end up getting killed every time because I suck at PvP. But again, this video here is just to talk a little bit about my high-end exotic build for patch 1.6. I ended up running this build right as patch 1.6 was released and was absolutely pleased with it for about a couple of weeks here. Have been recently running strikers, which I'll talk about in the next video. But so far, this is kind of a decent build. I actually end up going back to this every once in a while. Currently running a lightweight M4 and an MP5 ST. And usually run about 8,000 firearms, 4,000 stamina, and whatever I can roll into electronics after that. But unfortunately with this setup here on my Barretts Bulletproof chest, it didn't have a health roll. I found it from my weekly cache. It was poorly rolled into electronics with no health, so I ended up running it into stamina, and I go back and forth between that and electronics when I run a skill build. We'll talk more about the chest piece here later. So again, this setup is currently running me at 7,000 firearms, which is not too bad for damage output. So for the weapon, lightweight M4, I crafted this recently out of the blueprint that was offered up at the weekly reset last week. Enemy armor damage is pretty low, but 23.8 base damage, and the fire rate's absolutely phenomenal for this weapon. Talents were really neat. They actually work well together for PvE. Deadly, destructive, and I rolled in ferocious just to help me get an added 10% buff on the elite forces and named enemies, since I do a lot of world boss farming in the light zone and also solo challenge modes. So absolutely melts here the elite and named enemies. As far as the lightweight M4's weapons mods are concerned, your standard assault rifle mods, mag size, reload speed, rate of fire. Optics are pretty decent. The muzzle, that Omega rifle suppressor could be a little bit better on headshot damage, and the underbarrel as well. But again, overall pleased with this weapon. Still farming for better mods for this gear. MP5 I'm running now is one I found recently in a, I think this was a basic sealed cache that I bought from a vendor. But again, it's 22.5% hit crit chance, 20.3 base damage. Decent fire rate. Obviously MP5s are running around 800 RPM on the fire rate, which is added here. Talents are self-preserved, deadly, and ferocious, again for that PvE content. Weapons mods have got, of course, the mag size, crit damage, and rate of fire. The optics could be a little bit better on this red dot sight with crit damage. I rolled in headshot and crit chance, and the muzzle's okay. I got pretty lucky with this one here. For the longest time, I used to run the silence muzzles on these SMGs back in 1.5, but I found the benefit and value added to the output potential with the loud vent brakes. Underbarrel again running 17% crit damage. Stability is not really required for this weapon, but again that's the best underbarrel grip, the small grip that I can find. I've got the small grip blueprint, and I've probably rolled about 20 or 30 of those things, and it's never worked out. I think I found this one on the street. My Bullfrog, or the old FAMAS, this is one that I kept back from 1.5. Enemy armor damage is a little bit low at 20%, but 21,000 base damage, and the RPM is just ridiculous. High rate of fire here. Damage output is absolutely key here. Running 397k damage with the Bullfrog. I put this away for the longest time after 1.6 was released. I used to run this in 1.5 with an Alpha Bridge, 4-piece Alpha Bridge, 2-piece Nomad, and an LVOAC. So again, you know, the talents, I re-rolled this in the Deadly. It was also rolled in the Destruct, and of course the uncomplicated talent there for all the FAMAS Bullfrog weapons. Standard Bullfrog weapons mods, no accuracy, stability mods, magazine size, crit chance, rate of fire. Scope's pretty decent. The muzzle could be a lot better, especially with respect to headshot damage. And of course the reload speed's an added feature here that I like about the Bullfrog. The reload speed's critical here for me in PvE because of that because of that high fire rate. You find yourselves you know, emptying out magazines relatively quickly on this Bullfrog. It's gotten a lot more use in patch 1.6, which I'll talk about in another video with my strikers build with that added stability. It still dances around a lot on consoles. but again, you just have to deal with that recoil. Back to the Barretts Chestpiece. I found this not too long ago. Again, it was poorly rolled in electronics. I ended up just kind of going back and forth between stamina and electronics. It does, however, though, have enemy armor damage and exotic damage resilience, and of course the ammo is absolutely critical here for me. Running firearms health mods on the Chestpiece. I found these back in 1.6. Really decent rolls on the firearms health mods. I've been farming the Lexington, trying to get a new Barretts Chestpiece, but again, just have not been successful. Running a specialized pack, was rolled in stamina, middle roll in stamina at 1234 out of 1272, but I ended up putting in some health since I didn't have health on the Barretts. Also, ammo is really key here too. Firearms health and self-aid first aid heal mods. I used to run this Tenacious Mask. I was spec'ing the firearms with health on kill and blind def resistance, but what would have been nice is I found this Tenacious Mask a little while ago and gives us 10% output damage for 10 seconds after using the medkit, which is absolutely huge. I rolled it into skill power for the added healing and skill pump. It does have increased kill XP, which I wish it had something else, maybe like a bleed resistance or something. But again, pretty pleased with the Tenacious Mask so far. I'm still farming for a better one. Yeah, pretty decent setup for a high and exotic build here. Skull's Gloves are very critical here, especially with that 16% increased damage buff when no bonus sets are active. I found this one with a very low firearms roll at 1200. That's the best set that I could find with the right attributes that I wanted. Enemy armor damage, health on kill. I rolled in firearm damage here for the assault rifles. I've probably found about 20 pairs of these gloves in the light zone, and this is just the best set that I could put together for this build. Maximizing my output damage on that primary lightweight M4. Pretty pleased with it though. It's working out. I do have the Savage Gloves as well. I usually use these. It's a little bit spec higher, a little bit in the firearms there at 1248. I use this when I run around with the SMG as a primary. Create a chance in enemy armor damage, which is pretty key for me to run. When you're especially when you're up close with that SMG. Championship, the Shortbow Championship pads. I didn't have any of these in patch 1.5. I have 3 sets now, which is unbelievable. 2 of them, one on each character, and I've got a set in the stash that didn't have a health roll. This one had a decent firearms roll, so I put in health, and it does have bleed resistance. I end up rolling firearms health mod and first aid self-heal. What's absolutely critical about this Shortbow pad, though, is that 0.2 second fuse on the grenades. Doesn't give NPCs much time to get out of the way when you throw a grenade at them. And the Nimble Holster. A lot of people are running that right now in patch 1.6. It's probably going to get nerfed here. I got lucky. This one's a pretty decent roll across the board here. 1200 above all of them. I ended up bumping up the firearms bit. It did come with the base 7000 health roll, which was pretty decent. I can't remember what the firearm stat was before, but I tried to get it closer to the max as I could. But I am running a first aid self-heal on this as well. We'll see what happens here in the upcoming weeks with regards to the Nimble Holster. But what's really nice about this is the benefit that you get on the healing, especially now that our healing skills have been absolutely nerfed here, and the medkits have been nerfed here in patch 1.6. This Nimble Holster is critical, especially when you're getting pounded on by the NPCs and running low on health, waiting on that heal skill to recover. Again, running 7,000 firearms. Ideally, I normally run about 8. My other character's running 8 and 4 on stamina and just whatever you can get in the electronics for the for the shooter. This guy is just so thankfully running about 130,000 skill power with that ad that I've got on the Tenacious Mask. Weapons damage is pretty decent. Crit chance is really low. Again, crit damage is moderately at 65%. Headshot damage is okay as well. A little bit of stability. Reload time could be a lot better. Again, that 16% weapons damage bonus is critical, especially with that added 1300 to assault rifles on the Skull's Gloves. As far as my abilities are concerned, my skills, I'm running the Pulse Tactical Scanner. I'll run the Scrambler and the DZ when I go do the weeklies and dailies. And I'm also running the Booster Shot. Every once in a while, I'll go ahead and find the the overdose to be beneficial because it gives me a little bit more healing capacity than the booster shot does, but I like that added damage output with the booster shot. Also running recovery link here in PvE. I have run tac link before too, but I like that the recovery link feature. I go back and forth between adrenaline and steady hands. Obviously, adrenaline, you get that heal over 10 seconds, and it doesn't stop when you're taking damage. But when I'm running that, that Bullfrog, that steady hands really helps. That 25% recoil reduction when you go in and cover absolutely is key. It's even more beneficial, especially when you're in a striker build. Striker gives you a little bit more added stability, and the steady hands on top of that just makes that Bullfrog a heck of a lot more stable of a platform. And the damage output on that is absolutely phenomenal with that Striker's build. I'll talk more about that the Bullfrog and Striker's build in another video. On the move is really essential for me. I don't spend a lot of time out of cover running now in patch 1.6, especially on the solo challenge modes. But when I'm running around in the light zone killing the main bosses, this is absolutely huge. On the move gives you that 15% damage reduction for 10 seconds after you kill a hostile while moving. It's really nice to have for PvE. I'm also running critical save and of course the strike back. Critical save, obviously, when you're in low health, increases your damage resistance again by 20% for 10 seconds. Alrighty, so just kind of talking about it again, the M4 is doing about 368k DPS, MP5 is about 322. When you proc that booster shot, obviously it gets a little bit better. 431 on the M4 and 378. Toughness went up a little bit here too, which is pretty nice. Again, exotic high-end build, guys. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. Obviously it's a work in progress still, but pretty decent setup here. I end up finding myself running Strikers Nomad a lot more now, and I'm still farming for a better Barretts chest, obviously to incorporate into my future skill builds. So again, thanks for the visit. Just let me know what you think. Leave a like if you like the video. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions or comments about the build. Thanks a lot. Take care.